Hello and welcome to the second part of this presentation. Thank you for joining me in this journey. If you have not had a chance to listen to the first part of this presentation, I would advise you do so, as you may find parts of this presentation a little difficult or hard to understand. We are just picking up from where we left in the first part of the presentation. So we are looking at the mark of the beast crisis, and we want to identify who the beast is. So it becomes easier for us to identify the mark of the beast, or at least we know where the mark of the beast will come from if we know or identify who the beast is, and we'll ask the Bible to explain itself and show to us who is the beast that it's referring to. So in the last presentation, we had established a list of criteria that the Bible gives us to identify the beast that exists just before the second coming of Jesus, or at the end time. So we'll look at this criteria again and give Bible references of where this is talked about, and then we will go into some historical facts, and then we will look at different entities and see who fits this criteria. It's useful to say that it's not my intention to say anything bad about anyone, and I'm in no way saying bad things about individuals. So this does not refer to any individual, but its system. It may refer to an entity or the system. It doesn't refer to any individual in that system, but it refers to the system as a whole, as the Bible refers the same way. So we have noted that the beast, or the beast that the Bible talks about, is a geopolitical or a religio-political power. This we find in Daniel chapter 7, verse 17, verse 23, and verse 24. It explains that the beasts represent kings or kingdoms. Also, it explains that the horns given there, also represent kings or kingdoms. So they represent religio-political or geopolitical powers. So we have identified that the beast we are talking about, or one of the features, is that it must be a religio-political or a geopolitical power, and that it must be an end-time power. So it must exist towards the end, because we are told that when soon after this beast, the Ancient of Days comes to establish his kingdom. So it must be an end-time power. So the other thing we are told is that this beast power starts as a little horn that replaces 3 horns in the divisions of Imperial Rome, the 10 divisions of Imperial Rome. And we have seen already before that of the divisions of Rome, there were 3 powers that were replaced, or that were uprooted or destroyed. So these were the Heruli in 493 AD, so the Vandals in 534 AD, and the Ostrogoths in 538 AD. So we see that the 3 horns were uprooted up to 538 AD. So if this power replaces these ones, then it must come into full power, or come at least in 538 AD or after that, so that it can replace the 3 horns. So the other thing we are told is that this power is pompous, speaks great words, blasphemies against God. So this information is given to us in Daniel chapter 7, that it's a little horn that replaces 3. It's in chapter 7, verse 8, talks about that. And then Daniel chapter 7, verse 24, talks about the uprooting 3 horns. So it's introduced as a little horn, and then it will uproot 3 horns from there. And then Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, and Revelation chapter 13, verse 5. We are told that the power is going to be to speak great words, to be pompous and blaspheming against the Most High. And then we are told that this power is going to persecute the saints of the Most High. And this we find in Daniel 7, verse 25, and in Daniel 7, verse 21, that it will make war with the saints. So in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, we are given a time period for this power, or that it will be in power. It's given as a time, and times, and half a time. And then in Revelation chapter 13, we also given time. In Revelation 13, verse 5, we're given that it will continue for 42 months. So for 42 months. One other thing we are given is that it will intend to change times and laws. And this is in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. And then the additional information that Revelation chapter 13 gives us about this beast is that it will receive a deadly wound. At least after this period, after the 1260 or the 42 months, it will receive a deadly wound, and then that wound will be healed. This we get from Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. And later on as well in Revelation 13, as we will look at that. And then we also told in Revelation chapter 13, verse 18, that this power is a number, and that number is the number of a man, and we are given that number is 666 or 666. So other features that we are told about this same power include the fact that this power, Revelation chapter 13, verse 2 tells us that this power is going to get power and receive the seat of the dragon. So the dragon will give its seat and power to this beast. The dragon, we are told in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, that it's Satan himself. That's the dragon. In Daniel 7, verse 8, we are told that that this power also has eyes like a man. So those are the additional features that that we have about this power. So we need to get a power or an entity that satisfies all these criteria. So that's the next bit that we are going to look at a power that we will talk about and how it satisfies all these criteria, or how it meets all these criteria to be the beast that the Bible in Revelation chapter 13 is talking about, and also the same power that Daniel talked about before in the book of Daniel. So I want to submit to you that this power or these features, there is one entity that meets all the criteria, and it's the smallest sovereign nation on earth, which is the Vatican, representing the Catholic Church or Catholicism in the world. As I said, I refer to the system. I do not refer to any individual, but the system as a whole, and what it represents, and the characteristics that it shows that makes it meet the criteria to be the beast that the Bible warns us or tells us about. So we're going to look at that and see. So it satisfies the criteria that it's a religio-political power, and we have seen that that needs to be satisfied. We in Daniel chapter 7, verse 17, verse 23, and verse 24 explained that to us, that the beast is a religio, it is a political, or it's a king or kingdom. So it's a religio-political power, and that is going to be the end time power, because after that the Ancient of Days arrives. And then that it starts as a little horn, that replaces 3 uprooted horns. So if we go back to the history of the papacy, we see that it arises in Europe after the 10 divisions of Imperial Rome. Starts small and then gets big and big, and replaced 3 of the divisions of Imperial Rome. So the 3 divisions that we're talking about were the Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. The Ostrogoths being defeated in 538 AD. And we said if it is to satisfy this criteria, it must arise from 538 or after that. So at this time, it was already in existence, but that was the time, which was in 538 AD, that Justinian gave the decree giving the papacy both civil and religious power. So this marked the beginning of what is infamously called the Dark Ages in history, where church and state, or the church, could use civil power to enforce its laws and its decrees on the population. So this is a period that was marked with so much persecution. Millions of people lost their lives because they didn't agree with the rules of the church, because the state could enforce these rules. And that brings us to persecution of the saints. So the persecution of the saints happened a lot during this time. So we go to the next criteria that we haven't talked about, that it will speak great words and blaspheming against God. So we're going to look at that now to hear what this power says about itself. So the Pope is not only the representative of Jesus Christ, but he is Jesus Christ himself, hidden under the veil of flesh. We, the Pope, hold upon this earth the place of God Almighty. So if this doesn't speak enough of great words, a picture can speak 1,000 words. So you can see in this picture, I think it speaks for itself. And then now we come to the criteria of the time given in Daniel and the time given in Revelation chapter 13 verse 5. So in Daniel it's given as time, times, and half a time. So with the terminology that was used at the time, we need to calculate what this represents. So the Jewish year had 360 days. So in a month there are 30 days. So time, times, and half a time would represent 1 plus 2 plus 0.5 or plus a half, which gives 3.5. And if we multiply by 360, we get 1,260 days. And then in Revelation, it's given as 42 months. So we multiply 42 by 13 days in a month, we get 1,260 days. So it's the same time that is being talked about both by Daniel and by John in the book of Revelation. And if we are to convert this to prophetic years, we are told in Ezekiel chapter 4 verse 6 and Numbers 14 verse 34 that one day represents one prophetic year. So then this would translate to 1,260 years. And the starting point for this would be the same time that the little horn replaces the 3 horns, and this is the same time that it was given power. It got civil and religious power. So the combination of church and state started in 538 AD. So this would be the starting point for our time prophecy. And if it started in 1260, if it started in 538 AD and we count 1260 days or 1260 prophetic years, where would we come to? That would take us to 1798. So it takes us to the year 1798, and we have to think of what happened in that year. So in 1798 AD, Bethia, a general of Napoleon, invaded Rome and took the Pope captive to France. And the Pope later died in France, or died in exile in 17 1799. So this then brings us to the other criteria that we had, that this beast receives a deadly wound. So at this time, most people thought that the papacy had come to an end after the Pope was captured by Napoleon. So they thought the papacy had literally died, although it was not to be. And the Bible tells us so that this wound is going to get healed. So it receives a deadly wound at this time, in 1798 AD. And then we come to the other criteria, that it would attempt or intend to change times and laws. So if we look at the 10 Commandments, or the law of God, the law that satisfies times, that is got both time and law in it, is the 4th commandment, the law about the Sabbath. And here we see in the Council of Laodicea in 364 AD, canon number 29, that was decided in that council, says this: Christians must not Judaize by resting on the Sabbath, but must work on that day, rather honoring the Lord's day, and if they can, resting then as Christians. But if any shall be found to be Judaizers, let them be anathema from Christ. So a Christian shall not stop work on the Sabbath, but on the Lord's day. So here we find a change in the law of God. The Sabbath is transferred from Saturday to Sunday, or to the Lord's day. And if you go to the ruins of the church at Laodicea today, you will find a copy of these canons from the Council of Laodicea is attached there. You'll find the copy of this thing. If you look at canon number 29, this is how it reads, and this is clear that the law was changed. And this is a fact that they do not deny. If you ask them, they will tell you. This is a statement that was said by one Catholic priest, that I've repeatedly offered $1,000 to anyone who can prove to me from the Bible alone that I am bound to keep Sunday holy. There is no such law in the Bible. It is a law of the Holy Catholic Church alone. The Bible says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The Catholic Church says, no, by my divine power I abolish the Sabbath day and command you to keep holy the first day of the week. And lo, the entire civilized world bows down in a reverent obedience to the command of the Holy Catholic Church. What else do they say? They, the Protestants, deem it their duty to keep Sunday holy. Why? Because the Catholic Church tells them to do so. They have no other reason. The observance of Sunday thus comes to be an ecclesiastical law entirely distinct from the divine law of Sabbath observance. The author of the Sunday law is the Catholic Church. So here they agree that they've changed times and laws. So the law of God that pertains to time, they've changed it, and they do not deny it. They agree that they have done it. So we come to the next criteria, which is of the number 666. So on the old tiaras of the popes, you would find these letters: Vicarius Filii Dei. This is in Latin, and Latin is the official language of the Catholic Church even up to date. So this is the title of the Pope in Latin, and what this means when translated to English is representative of the Son of God, or sometimes vicar of the Son of God. So if you translate this into numerical values in Latin, then this is what you come up with, as shown on the screen. So you come to the number 6, 6, and 6. So here we have looked at most of the criteria, and it is satisfied most of these. What we are left with is the criteria of the healing of the wound. So we'll come to that, but we want to take a look at something that happens here, or that is mentioned by John in chapter 13. If you read verse 10, it says, "He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword." Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So here John had talked about the beast receiving a deadly wound, and then he's talking about captivity. And we have seen that the Pope was taken captive in 1798. So soon after this, John sees a second beast. That's in verse 11 of Revelation chapter 13. John sees another beast that looks like this. So it looks like a lamb with two horns. So we have a second beast that is introduced to us now in the in verse 11 of Revelation, and this is round about the time that the first beast receives a deadly wound. So this is the time that this beast comes to be, and John Wesley talked about this second beast, trying to identify who this beast is. We referred to the beast before in the other video, so now we're going to complete the discussion about this second beast. This is what John Wesley has had to say in 1754, referring to this beast. This is in his explanatory notes upon the New Testament, page 704. He says, "But he is not yet come, though he cannot be far off, for he is to appear at the end of the 42 months of the first beast." So he's referring to the second beast that in 1754 wasn't far off. He was just interpreting the same prophecies that we are looking at. So he was looking at the 42 months prophecy, and then saying the second beast that comes soon after the infliction of the wound couldn't be far off in 1754. So for us to try and find out what this other beast, or what is this other power is that comes up round about the time that the first beast gets a deadly wound inflicted, and gets into captivity, as verse 10 of Revelation 13 said, we have to look at what power came up around this time in history. So then we come to the United States of America. The Declaration of Independence was in 1776, and in 1791 the Bill of Rights was added. And if we look at this Bill of Rights, reading Article 1, it says this: "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." So we see here the United States is established on principles that are entirely different from the status quo at the time. The first beast, we see that it was established on union of church and state, or union of religion and politics. The United States, which is represented by this beast that comes up at this time, is separating church and state. So the other features that we can look at to find out in support of the fact that this is the United States that we're talking about here, is what the verse says. If we read Revelation chapter 13, verse 11 and 12, it says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." So this beast comes up out of the earth. So if you read Revelation chapter 13 verse 1, when it talks about the first beast, the beast arises from the sea, comes out of the sea. In Revelation 17 verse 15 explains to you what that means. That arising from the sea means it's coming from peoples, multitudes, or nations. So it's coming up from populated areas, or from a populated area. So this beast is unique. The second beast of Revelation 13 is unique in that it doesn't come out from the sea. So it comes out from the earth. So that means it must come out from a sparsely populated to unpopulated area, which is true of the United States. And it had two horns like a lamp. So it looked like a lamp. This indicates some degree of innocence there. And having two horns, looking at the system that is coming from and what it was running away from, it was a combination of church and state, and this had two distinct or separate horns. So it separated religion and politics from the first article that we just read in the Bill of Rights. It separated church and state. But the Bible tells us more details about this beast. That it spoke as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So although this beast looks innocent as the lamp and separates religion and politics, but there are characteristics the Bible tells us that this beast is going to exhibit, or it still gets the same power authority from the dragon as the first beast, and exercises the power of the first beast. And on top of that, it causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So then we come back to the first beast, or the healing of the wound, which is now being talked about here, that the deadly wound was healed, and then this second beast is causing everyone to worship the first beast. So when was this wound healed? We got an article in a newspaper, in the San Francisco Chronicle, on Tuesday, February the 12th, 1929. If you look in the center of the article, you will see written there, heal wound of many years. And next to that, Vatican again at peace with Italy after long quarrel. So here, this article talks about healing the wound. In 1929, when Mussolini and the Pope signed some treaties and some papers giving power to the popes and the Vatican. And even themselves, as the Catholics, when the wound was healed, in this article from the Catholic Advocate, published in Australia on Thursday, the 18th of April, 1929, this document, the historic scene in the Lateran Palace, it's talking about the same event. And within the article, they also talk about healing the wound. So the wound was healed, although maybe not completely, but then these are articles that mention exactly as the terminology that is used in the Bible, that the wound has been healed. So the Bible also tells us about this same beast, that he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So this second beast does a lot for the first beast. It exercises the power of the first beast. It causes the earth to worship the first beast. Now it's giving life unto the image of the beast. So the image of this beast must be something that looks like the first beast, that the second beast should give life unto. So the first beast is Catholicism and papacy together. The second beast is the United States of America. And the differences between these beasts, as we have seen, are that the papacy came from a point of unity between religion and politics, enforcing its laws through the government. And the US was formed on religious liberty, separation of church and state, separation of religion and politics, so two distinct horns. But when it forms an image unto the first beast, it would suggest that it's becoming similar or following in the footsteps of the first beast. So here we find a repeat of history, where the United States then starts combining religion and politics. And once this happens, learning from history, the end result is persecution. If the church can use the government to enforce its laws or its religious rules, the end result is that it persecutes all those who do not follow the same rules as them. So persecution results. So for us to really get these prophecies fulfilled, for this to happen, then the United States has to get religion and politics, or religion and the government, united to enforce religious laws on its people. And once this is done, the United States will have formed an image of the first beast. And then the United States as well, according to the Bible, will enforce or cause everyone to worship the first beast. So here we find in Revelation chapter 13 verse 16, that's the next verse from the previous one that we were reading, that and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So here we see a mark that is received either in the right hand or on the forehead. This is the mark of the beast. This is where the Bible talks about the mark of the beast. So we have identified the beast, or the beasts that will be involved with this, the first beast and the second beast. The first beast is the owner of the mark, and the second beast helps, or is the one that causes everyone to receive the mark of the first beast, or the mark of the beast in the right hand or in their foreheads. So to begin this discussion, we have to look at whether the Almighty has a mark or a sign as well. So we have seen from the ancient world, when we looked at the brick from ancient Babylon, that it had a seal. So there were ancient seals. This can interchangeably be used as a mark or a sign. So a sign, a mark, or a seal can basically perform the same functions. So let's look at what Revelation 7 verse 3 says about God having a mark, a seal, or a sign as well. So it says, saying, "Hath not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." So here we're told about the servants of God being sealed in their foreheads. So we have to look in the Bible again and see if the Bible tells us at any time about any sign or any seal or any mark that God had. And then we can draw some parallels and get some clues from there to try and work out what could be the mark of the beast. So here if we go to Exodus chapter 31 verse 13, it says, "Verily my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations." So here God talks about his Sabbath as a sign between him and his children throughout the generations. So here we have God talking about a sign between him and his servants, which is the Sabbath. So let's hear what the first beast of Revelation 13 or Catholicism says is their mark of authority, or is their mark, or is their sign, or is their seal. If we ask them that, what would they say to us? So here they say, of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act. This is talking about the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. And the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. So they have said, the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday is the mark of their ecclesiastical power and the mark of their authority in religious matters. So then, if this is the mark of their authority, could this then mean that this could be the mark of the beast? So here we have to look at a few things. We have identified the beast as the first beast as Catholicism, that is a mark. We've identified the United States as the second beast that helps or aids in enforcing this mark, or the mark of the first beast. And we have heard God saying the Sabbath is a sign between him and his servants. And then we've heard the Catholic Church say that Sunday is the mark of her authority and ecclesiastical power in religious matters. So what then should happen if this is going to be true, or if this indeed Sunday is going to be the mark of authority or the mark of the beast, as it is the mark of authority of the Catholic Church, which is the first beast? So here we see that there's a worship question here. So from what we have discussed up until now, we see that the mark, either the mark of God or the sign of God and the mark of the beast, it's coming out as a question of worshipping. We worship God on the Sabbath, and we can also worship God on Sunday. So the true Sabbath is Saturday, and the man-made or the Catholic Sabbath is Sunday. So here the question comes about worship, and whether worshipping on Sunday can be or will be at some point the mark of the beast. So at the moment, worshipping on Sunday is not the mark of the beast, but should there come a time when religion and politics combines, and then the state enforces worshipping on Sunday on the people, then it develops to be a mark of the beast. So if it's enforced, if worship is going to be enforced on Sunday, then it becomes a mark of the beast. And not only that, if worshipping on the true Sabbath of the Bible, which is Saturday, becomes prohibited, that's also establishing the mark of the beast. We will look at some world events now, because this may sound very far-fetched and unrealistic, or something that may never happen, but we want to look at a few things that are happening in the world today and try and come back to this question again and see where it leads us to. So if you've been following current news, in the United States there is a growing movement of people that are in support of Christian nationalism. So Christian nationalism basically means combining back the government and religion. So in Project 2025, which is a document from the far right, the United States, if conditions are conducive or they win, their plan is to introduce a set of transitions or new things in the United States, where basically they make the government participate in saving souls. So they have produced a document, a 900-page document detailing how that will work, and this is called Project 2025. So in this, we see the combination of state and church. We see the combination of religion and politics, which is history repeating itself. If this comes to fruition, then history will be repeating itself. How? Because when church and state, or when religion and politics combined in the past, this led to the Dark Ages. It led to persecution of people that were not in agreement with the church laws at the time. And if this happens again, this will usher in persecution. And you don't have to go much further. You just have to read the document. It's Project 2025. You can have access to it on the internet. One of the things they talk about in this, on page 589, is inducing Sabbath observance. And the Sabbath they're talking about, they mention it there, it's Sunday. So here in Project 2025, they want the state or the government, the federal government, to be involved in saving souls and to be involved in enforcing, inducing Sabbath. These are not the only ones. There are calls from many different groups or many different quarters for the same. We just look at a few here because there are too many of them. In this document from 2017 even, called by Brett McLaughlin from Boston College of Theology and Ministry in Brighton, Massachusetts. The title of the document is Recovering the Sabbath, Sunday Observance as a Universal Human Right and Civic Cooperationism. So just read in the abstract here, just one. The first statement is that the paper advances the religion state model of cooperationism would allow for civil legislation to protect the Sabbath. So you can get hold of this document. It's also available on the internet and read through the whole of it. But basically what this is talking about is legislation to induce Sunday observance. And then Christianity Today on the 30th of January 2024 had this to say, that the Sabbath is not a luxury good. You can also access this article on the internet. Here's what they said. God designed weekly rest to be holy for all people, not just the economically stable. So this is from evangelicals. And the majority of these people have said that the Sabbath is not a commandment that we need to keep today because it's a Jewish Sabbath, or it was done away with. But here they are calling for civil legislation to allow the poor time to keep the Sabbath, because they say it's not just for the economically stable. So that means those who are not economically stable, even if they wanted to work on the Sabbath, which in this case they are referring to Sunday, then they would be prevented by legislation because they need to get a day of rest as God designed it. But the world has not been keeping the Sabbath, but we are hearing the Sabbath question coming up more and more and being mentioned now to be kept. But the only thing is that it's being mentioned in relation to Sunday, which is not the original Sabbath. Here, lawmakers and evangelical leaders joined together in repentance on the 29th of January 2024 because America needs God. So here we see increasing calls to combine the state and religion, and for the state or for the government to enforce religious laws. So if the idea that Sunday worship could be enforced by law was very far-fetched, here from these few articles, you can see that it's a feasible idea and is being called for. Here I've just given just a few, very few of the points being raised about it. But if you do your research, you find that there's much more. And then we come to the point that now, how will this affect those who are non-religious, or those who don't go to any church, for instance? How is this going to affect them? Because the Bible says the mark of the beast will be enforced on everyone. Even religious, non-religious, everyone on the earth will be enforced. And if you don't get it, there will be punishment for it. So how will this affect those other people? Because so far we've talked about religious, about worship. Since the mark of the beast is primarily to do with worship, as we have seen, worshipping either God or worshipping the beast on different days, worshipping God on the true Sabbath and worshipping the beast on the fourth Sabbath, this will be the distinguishing feature, or will be the mark of the beast, will be the two opposing sides that will be there. And we have seen there are calls for the lawmakers or for the government to enforce Sabbath observance or Sunday observance in the United States, which will be establishing the image of the beast, because they want to combine religion and politics, which happened with the first beast. So forming the image in this, the second beast would follow the same, or they would be following in the footsteps of the first beast. So we want to at least hear what Catholicism says again about this same Sabbath, since they claim the ones that changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. What do they have to say? A Sabbath for the earth and for the poor, that's the challenge of Pope Francis. And Pope Francis, in his document or encyclical called Laudato Si in 2015, which was followed by Laudato Deum in October 2023, had this to say: not resting is not just bad for the soul, he says, but it is also bad for the earth. The constant drive to produce and consume more is squandering natural resources, and it prevents us from treating the living world and one another with dignity and respect. The Sabbath forces us to consider how we spend all our days. So here the Pope is talking about the Sabbath, which is Christianity Sunday. That's the Sabbath he's talking about. So we come to the same point, that the Sabbath has become a talking point of late. It's been forgotten for such a long time, and people have suddenly remembered the Sabbath. And as they have remembered, which day are they going to keep? They are going to keep Sunday. So Sunday is the Sabbath that's being put forward from every corner, that we should observe the Sabbath. For good reasons. We have very good reasons for doing it. And for those who do not go to church, how will they keep the Sabbath, and why will they do so? So here we come to the Green Sabbath. So if you've got nothing to do with religion or church, you have to keep the Sabbath for the climate. You have to keep the Sabbath for the environment. So here, which was an article that was in the Washington Post, you can also check it up on the internet. It says here, in 2019, Scotch founded the Green Sabbath Project to incite a mass movement to observe a weekly day of rest for the secular and religious alike. This is not a spa day, but a modern version of what the ancients practiced, avoiding work in factories and offices, or even in front of our laptops, opting out of driving or flying or using engines of any kind for the day, putting off shopping, preparing food in advance, and closing or ceasing incessant doing. So this is a lot of parallels with how the biblical Sabbath is kept, except that you will be keeping it for the environment as a Green Sabbath, and you will be doing it on a Sunday. If you don't want to call it the Green Sabbath, there are other names for it. The Eighth Sabbath. And the Eighth Sabbath is for everyone. Eighth Sabbath March. So we are asking people everywhere to organize an Eighth Sabbath March for Sunday, April 7, 2024. So this is, it says here, organize or participate in an Eighth Sabbath March in your city, community, church, school, or university, creating awareness and demanding people take action in support of a weekly day of rest. So here we are. We'll call it the Eighth Sabbath. Doing it for the environment. What day is it? You can ask all these people. It's on Sunday. And if you don't want to call it the Eighth Sabbath, you call it the Eco Sabbath. This is from the Weather Channel. How to cut emissions by doing nothing. Save the earth by taking a day off. So keeping the Eco Sabbath, according to this video, could be the next big climate move. So in here he says, it's the old school charm of the Sabbath with a new age green twist to it. It says no checking email, no watching TV, no driving. This, they say, could slash carbon emissions by a whopping 14.3%. All this without spending a dime or needing any new technology. So if you don't want to keep the Green Sabbath, you keep the Earth Sabbath. If you don't want, you keep the Eco Sabbath. And legislation around the world is going to enforce it. You will be keeping it the same way as God's Sabbath, just that yours is the Eco Sabbath, and the day that you'll be keeping it on is on Sunday. So besides this, in more secular societies, what is the other reason why you need to keep the Sabbath? We come to the European Sunday Alliance. So for your mental health, the mental health of workers, we need to call on political leaders to establish a synchronized quality and social resting weekly time for workers in order to enable them to preserve their mental health. So here the European Sunday Alliance goes on to say as well, establish a European weekly common day of rest for workers by tradition on Sunday. So there you are. There are calls around the world for the Sabbath to be remembered. It has been forgotten for such a long time. Now it's being remembered, and governments are going to enforce its observance. But there are two Sabbaths here. There's a true Sabbath from the Bible and a counterfeit Sabbath that's man-made. Which one are you going to keep? You have to make a choice between the two and decide which Sabbath you are going to keep. So this, when they say observe Sunday, or do 1, 2, 3 on Sunday, or say, as they are saying, do nothing on Sunday, yes, we'll stop and do nothing on the day, but we don't consider it to be the Sabbath. But the reasons why this will be done, or why they are advocating for it, is for the climate and to appease God, because there's a feeling that the problems in the world at the moment are as a result of judgments from God, because the world has moved away from God. So to solve the problems, make people get back to God by introducing religious laws that are enforced by government. This is more so being talked about in the US at the moment, but will most likely spread to other areas on the earth. And for the climate, so if this doesn't work, what are we going to do? If we enforce the Sabbath and we enforce a green Sabbath and a religious Sabbath on Sunday, both of them are on Sunday. According to the Bible, if you read Matthew chapter 24, the natural disasters are going to get worse. So the climate change disasters will only get worse going forward, according to the Bible. They will get much worse as we near to the close of time. And because of that, the laws may become more stringent. The laws will progress, because if there's a law that you're supposed to do nothing on Sunday to protect the environment, and we all do nothing, but some people continue to keep the Sabbath on Saturday, or continue to keep the true biblical Sabbath on Saturday, and then on Sunday they rest, but they don't consider it the Sabbath, might come to a point where then these people become a minority or become a nuisance, and they have to be dealt with. The legislation might progress, and the condition in the world may lead to that, because whatever we are trying to do, we are not achieving it. So we'll make further rules, or we make the law more stringent to try and get the results that we are looking for. And this leads to persecution. When you have to disregard the biblical Sabbath by law, then the mark of the beast will have been established. You will have to make your choice. So everyone, we need to make our choice. We need to choose. Do we go with the majority path, or do we go with the minority path? Mark 7, verse 7 says, "In vain they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. So we need to follow God's commandments, not the commandments of men. If you are following the commandments of men, the Bible says, they worship me in vain. So you have to choose. Here in Acts chapter 1, verse 11, it says, this same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. So Jesus is coming back again. As sure as he walked the streets of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, he is going to come again. And his coming is soon. We can see the signs all around. All these things we have talked about, they are signs that Jesus is coming back again soon, and we have to be prepared. And when he comes, Revelation chapter 1 verse 7, it says, every eye shall see him. Jesus is not going to come as a secret. When he comes, every single eye will see him. It even says that even those who pierced him, those soldiers, are going to see him with their eyes. So there's no secret rapture. Jesus is coming back and everyone will see him. And this time, he's not coming as the servant boy of Nazareth as last time. This time he's coming as the King of Kings, and every eye shall see him. Every eye will see him. This same Jesus is coming back again. Thank you. Amen.